Denethor is, Gandalf says he's crazy. He's lost his mind, which happens in the books, but much later. And so immediately after Gandalf says that, the audience, at least to my mind, the audience goes, okay, well, he's lost it. So nothing he does for the rest of the movie counts because he's literally insane. Like, his behavior, and I guess, I mean, technically speaking, who on earth would send your son and the only horseman that you actually have on a death charge towards an army like 10 times the size of yours that you know they're going to get defeated by?
Right.
Versus in the books where Faramir's actually sent as a captain to Osgiliath to hold the crossing of the river, which they know they will lose, but they need to make the enemy pay so they have time for the Rohirrim to get there. That's a sacrifice that makes sense, a strategy that's solid, and a moment where Denethor says Boromir would have done it. And you get to see this great pain, and Faramir has a good reason to think, my father hates me. It's not because he's crazy. His father is crazy in the movie, and it's like he sends his son out to die because he's insane. Okay, he's crazy. No, he has real daddy issues. He's got problems, and he loves his son Boromir too much. And you get to have these moments in the books where it's like the relationship between father and son and the grief of a father over losing his child. You don't get that so much in the movies because it's like, okay, we kind of need to wrap this up. We need to figure out how to get Faramir injured and get him back. And like, I get needing to do that. It's important, but you could have done the same thing. You didn't need to have the scenes with Osgiliath, and you could have had the regret anyways. But
sure,
that being the foil to Theoden then is, it makes sense in the movies. I get it. I get what they're kind of trying to get at. Eowyn. Sorry, moving on to Eowyn.
Okay, now I have to stop you because I have to.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Theoden is too. I mean, Denethor, is so much of an interesting character on his own.
Yes.
So the Battle of Pelennor Fields, and this is definitely getting further into the movie, right? And I think that's a good perspective to keep in mind because in the movies, if I'm understanding correctly, the Battle of Pelennor Fields happens after Osgiliath is taken, versus in the books, it happens before Osgiliath is taken. Is that a correct understanding?
There isn't a Battle of Pelennor Fields in the book, not at least in the same way. So there is in the books. What happens is there's Osgiliath has been held by Gondor for the past several years. There's a garrison there, and the enemy's coming, and they know the enemy's coming. Gandalf arrives on Shadowfax to let them know the Rohirrim will come. So Denethor, to Minas Tirith, to let them know the Rohirrim are coming. So they know that they're going to have allies coming, but they're not going to be there for 7 days, something like that. That's what Gandalf tells them. And so they then have to go, okay, how long can we hold out? 7 days is a long time. So you've got the main crossing at Osgiliath, and you know that's where the enemy's going to hit. Denethor says, I have long known that is where the enemy will strike. Because he has a Palantir. Denethor, and this is something that bothered me about the movie as well, Denethor is of a high kingly race. He's a Númenórean of pure blood, and he's a descendant of this race of kings. He's a descendant of Elrond's brother. What was Elros or Elrohir, I think. I might be thinking of his sons. But he has he has knowledge, and he's farsighted, and he has a Palantir. He is a very intelligent, very well bred, very important character. And he can see what's going on, but he's losing his mind slowly. He's not losing it all at once, and he's still got some go in him, but he knows enough that they're going to hit Osgiliath, and that makes total sense in a story that is built around Gondor is the bastion of protection for the rest of the world from Saruman. From Sauron. I'm going to keep doing that.
That's fine. Yeah.
Which means they have so much experience with strategy, fighting an enemy that's larger than them, fighting at a disadvantage. They know what's going to happen. He has captains that come to him and give him information, and they have councils together. They have councils with Gandalf. He would never have them just send all the horsemen out onto the field to die. Holding Osgiliath strategically makes a lot of sense, and it makes for some really nice tension where he sends his son out to do this because Boromir took Osgiliath, and now Faramir's going to lose it. And his father knows he's going to lose it. And so you have Osgiliath is taken, predictably, and then you have Faramir trying to organize the retreat. And that's when you get the Witch King and the Nazgul come in, and Gandalf has to ride out. And so it's.
And is that when Faramir gets injured?
That's when Faramir's injured on the escape from Osgiliath, and then Faramir's out for the rest of the books. He's the only times you see him after that is in the Houses of Healing.
Okay.
So it makes that strategically makes a lot more sense than having the charge is very cool charge makes no sense. So
I think of the Battle of Pelennor Fields as such a almost like it in some ways encapsulates the despair of Middle Earth in the face of this great enemy, where it's and granted, obviously it's taking some creative license compared to the books as you just outlined, but the idea is, Denethor has lost his mind, and he does not care for Faramir nearly as much as he does for Boromir. And part of this is in the movies, it's a foolhardy errand where it makes no sense, but he is trying to claim some shred of dignity for what he has done in his lifetime as the leader of Gondor by taking back Osgiliath, which was part of a stronghold for them as a nation. And so sending out his son, obviously he's a fool for doing it. He it's not a smart move strategically in the movies, whereas in the books it makes more sense. That being said, it shows a crazy man who doesn't deserve the love of his son, at the same time sending his own son to his death, and his son doing it because he desperately wants the love of his father, right? And he knows that it's for naught, but he's doing it because he wants to show him how much he's willing to sacrifice to get his father's approval. And it's such a despairing scene because you go, this is all for naught. This is for nothing. Like, why would you even try to do this? But from an emotional standpoint, you get the bind that he's put himself in, where he goes, this son now goes, I have nothing, I have nothing to live for at this point if I cannot stand up with dignity for what my father as the king of, or as the steward of Gondor, is asking of me. And that's where you have Gandalf trying to stop him in the movies and going, don't do this, your father loves you and all this. And he goes, I am a descendant of the sons of Numenor. I would gladly give my life for her people, her beauty, all of this stuff. And it's just a desperate last lash out of Gondor before their doom, really. And I think that in some ways shows the despair of the situation that they're in. And it just shows the craziness of Denethor as a character. I personally really enjoy that scene from an emotional standpoint, and that's maybe why I'm coming at it this way. I see it's interesting to think about Denethor as a more nuanced character, more or less is where I'm coming from for this. And I appreciate that. It would have been interesting to see that in the movies. And I don't know, maybe going back to your point, is could they have told the same story with this more nuanced view in the way that you just outlined, which is more true to the books?
Yeah, I think that
probably.
I think they could have. I can understand. Again, I can understand why. You want to have these scenes the way they play out, and you get a similar emotional payoff in some ways between Gandalf and Faramir, especially. And you also have Pippin and Faramir take a ton of Gandalf's lines in this movie. It's very funny.
Nice,
but you see this. Denethor doesn't have a redeeming quality in the movie. He has zero redeeming qualities. He's a crazy man who sends his son out to die, and then he gets sad when his son dies. or almost dies. And it's like, oh, boo-hoo, who thought that was going to happen? Like,
Yeah,
it's
that's true. That's true. That's true.
when he sends him to Osgiliath, it's like he will probably die.
Mhm.
But this is a noble and necessary thing. And he thinks my son Boromir could have done it. And then as soon as he sees his son come back, he has deep regret. He is so regretful that that's it. That's the last straw. I'm going to kill myself. That is the end of hope. And that's the thing, is that Denethor paid a price looking into the Palantir all those years. He's that Sauron saw into his mind, and saw his fears, and saw what he saw his his ego and his everything that his entire personality was wrapped up in. And now at the end, you have, okay, Denethor doesn't redeem himself, which is why it's okay for him to die. He doesn't redeem himself, but he has redeeming qualities. He loves his son Faramir. He did a terrible thing, and he kills himself over it. And you have this incredible emotional tension between Faramir and his father, which doesn't matter if he just had a bad dad. If his father was just awful,
Right.
who really cares that much that he died? Nobody. Whereas if his father was a great man who has lost his grip because he's been spending too much time looking into this Palantir, looking outside of his palace walls, and is too wrapped up in Gondor and himself to see what's going on around him, who cares? So you lose this entire thing when you have him just crazy. You do get an old man on fire running off a cliff, though, which is fun to watch. So, like,
I will admit, I like that scene.
that was pretty fun. So